Hey, what's going on? It's Tommy P here. I'd like to thank you for tuning in and checking out my instructional video on how to disassemble and reassemble a Mossberg 464. So when I got my Mossberg back in February, I got it home and wanted to do what I generally do with my guns, which is take them apart and kind of see how they work and how I can get them apart, grease, clean them, oil them, so on and so forth. And went on YouTube, which is where I generally do most of my education for how to do that kind of thing, and found out that there aren't really any good videos out there, or any videos really on how that would be done. And so I decided, after looking and checking out online different websites, that I would just kind of go at it and see if I could figure out. I'm generally a pretty mechanically inclined person. I don't do this for a living or anything, but I have a pretty good idea of how things get taken apart and get back together. So I figured, after I did it for my first time, that I would put a video up for people that can take a look at and have a little bit more confidence as to doing it themselves. So before we get started, I am not a gunsmith, I'll admit that, and also, as per the warranty for Mossberg, when you disassemble and reassemble the 464, it will void your warranty. So just be cautious of that. It is something that, if you're going to do, you want to have a pretty good understanding of what it is exactly that you're doing, and and if not, deal with the consequences of that. So as we're going through this, you shouldn't really need to be doing a whole lot of banging on anything, really pounding on anything. Everything should come together and come apart and go back together pretty easily. And so, and also, we are only going to work on the what's going on here in the receiver. All right, so we're not going to mess around with the trigger assembly at all, or anything with the tube magazine mechanism. We're just going to focus on what's going on inside here. All right, and let's see here. And you'll see by what I got going on here, I have a real clean work area. Really important. Parts obviously can go flying when you're working on your your gun. You want to make sure that you'll be able to easily find them. I like to work on a towel just because it's easy. It catches things that start to roll. But whatever works for you. So we'll get into it then. So first of all, there is. Let me get this here. All right. On my gun, and I saw a couple online blogs where different people were explaining this, and I didn't exactly see how it was that they were explaining it, but on my model of the 464, there's a hole right here, as you can see, and with that, some people have just said that there's a screw there. Mine didn't come with it. I don't know if it's missing it or not, but the first thing that we're going to do is just real gently open up the action here, just very little actually. Let me see if I can reposition this camera. Hopefully that'll be fun. Alright, so what we're going to do is, there's a little hole right here that is on the opposite side of this hole here, and we're going to go ahead and tap out the pin that is in there. So, like I said, anytime that you're doing any kind of work on this, you shouldn't have to really bang on anything too awful hard. Okay, it's just small taps is all that you should have to do. All right. So the tool that I'm using isn't long enough to go, so I just use a paper clip, just to get it out. It's going to pop out a small pin like this. And there actually is kind of important when this goes back in, so pay attention. I don't know if you can see this. There's a, come on. Well, one side of it is going to be, it's going to have like a little ring around it, so it's going to matter when it goes back in which side that is, but for now just set it off to the side. And what we're going to do is open, or actually, we're going to remove the screw that is under the what's called the link. Alright, it's right here, so we'll take that off. And again, this is only the second time that I've actually done this, so no need for negative comments. I understand there might be a better way to do this, or I might be doing something wrong. Just this is out there because there's nothing out there already for people, and if you wanted to get it disassembled and cleaned out, you would have something to show you how to do that. So whenever you're tapping out, generally speaking with guns, all your pins are going to tap from one side to the other, and on my gun, I don't know if this is how every model is, but the side where your loading gate's at, that's you're pounding down from there, or tapping down from there rather. So you're going to remove the pin that actually holds the linkage in, and you can just tap down right here, and it's going to pull out this pin here. Alright, so we undid the screw that is right here in the bottom, and then took out the pin. We'll set those aside, and when you do that, it's going to okay, there we go. Open up everything there, okay? And what we are going to do is this will just slide out here. I don't know if you can see that, but the lever that holds the bolt in place, it slides into the linkage like this. Alright, you could just get this front part here out, just like so, and then slide this part out here, and then it should lift the entire thing out as an entire unit. Alright, and you can keep that together if you want to. There is a pin right here that you can tap it out and get this part even good. It's pretty simple and easy to clean if you leave it like that. It's one less step. So the next thing is to get the bolt out, and for that you can just go ahead, and I keep my thumb spur here on my trigger. I keep it on there anyway, but it's a little bit easier, it seems like, for working on it like this, to get the bolt in and out, because you do have to push down on it just a little bit. You see that little bit of play that you have there? That is important when you're trying to get this out, okay? So, and when you are pulling this out, just be cautious of the fact that your firing pin is going to come out of your bolt, okay? So don't be worried about that. But the whole thing should just slide out. And like I said, the firing pin's going to come out the back of it. It's not a big deal. Alright, and that's actually good. You're going to want to clean in that anyway if you've been shooting and oiling and you haven't had a chance to get this apart. So once that's apart and you got the bolt out, the gate, or whatever you want to call it, will slide out the top end of it, okay? And so once you have it at that point, this is where I stopped as far as removing everything from inside the receiver here for cleaning purposes. There is the carriage actually for the bullets, for the cartridges, that's here, and I believe that this pin right here is all that it would take to remove that. And I tried to tap on it, and I started using a little more force than I felt comfortable with, and so I just left it in there. It's really not that big of a deal as far as getting in there to clean. Let's see if I can get I'm probably not going to be able to, but you can get in there pretty much and take care of everything that you need to get at with that in there, and just kind of move it around as needed. But if you feel like going a little bit further and working a little bit harder against it, by all means, go for it. It's just I didn't feel comfortable, and don't do anything you don't feel comfortable with. If you've gotten halfway this far and don't feel comfortable, stop and get it back together, because nothing worse than having that feeling of getting it apart and not knowing how to get it back together. So, once I got to this part, I just kind of went ahead and flipped it upside down and gave it a good spray inside. And so I'm not going to really dwell on cleaning the gun. I mean, if you want to learn how to clean your gun, there are other and better tutorials on that, I'm sure. But more or less what I did for that was just took an old toothbrush and kind of just got in there to the nooks and crannies that I wasn't able to get at just by doing general cleaning, without doing the disassembly portion. So got in there, did a little bit of cleaning, cleaned it up with rags and some wadding that I use for cleaning. Just kind of try to get in there, soak up some of that old grease or lube or oil, because when I noticed that when I was cleaning it, oil accumulates, and at a certain point, I felt uncomfortable with how much oil was in there. Specifically, I noticed, and you probably won't be able to see it, but the portion of the firing pin that goes into the bolt, like this, on the actual firing pin, there is very small amounts of rust. Of course, it's not gonna... You can kind of see it there. That were starting to form, and so I'm just glad that I was able to get it out, get it cleaned down, excess oil wiped off, and just give it a real thorough cleaning, just to make sure that it's, it's not sitting in there with unnecessary amounts of oil on it. So I got it, and I went in there and sprayed down inside the bolt there. Just ran a toothpick down there just to make sure to pick up any excess. Again, I've already cleaned this, pretty thoroughly, and put it back together before I did this, and felt comfortable enough doing it at that point that I was okay with taking it apart again to do this tutorial. But it really is pretty simple. It's just a little bit of finesse, more so than other guns that I've worked on. So just put a little bit of light oil on it, and give it a general wipe down, not excess. I mean, that's like I was saying. I mean, when I was cleaning it before, it seemed like I wasn't able to really get in there and clean out the oil that I was putting into it, and so it seemed like it was building up. So just light oiling, make sure that everything is coated, so you're not dealing with any kind of rust situations, but nothing excessive. So now that it is disassembled, reassembled, and also it should go without saying, while you're doing this, have your safety on, keep your bolt back in the back position, and don't pull the trigger. I don't know for certainty that it would do anything necessarily, but it doesn't serve any purpose to do that while you have it in this kind of a situation, and it's not worth risking things going everywhere. So when I cleaned it, I just kept the safety on, kept the bolt back, and did not mess with the trigger at all. All right, and just, like I said, just toggled this back and forth as needed to clean in there and really get in there good to get everything out. So as far as that's concerned, like I said, do whatever cleaning you need to do while that's out. And once you go to get everything reassembled, it's a little bit more fitting. Obviously, everything, when you try to put it back together, it's going to be easier to get it apart than get it back together. But for this, there's a curvature on the... Let's see if I can get it in here. You can see that there at the top of the right there. There's a curve to the firing pin, and there's also a curve to your bolt. Okay, so you want to make those line up like that when you're putting them back in. And it's going to be a little bit finicky when you do that. Don't worry, you can get it readjusted once you get it in there. Don't try to spend any kind of time trying to get it like this and then put it in, because it's just going to slide back out anyway. So first thing with getting it back to being reassembled is, you can push that in there for now, is the gate, I guess it's called, and that's going to go in there. I guess I kind of thought that it would go in there like this with the slope down facing backwards, but that's not the case. The slope down is going to be facing forwards, and that's just going to slide in there as you would expect it to, and it's just going to go all the way down to the bottom. Alright, so you can leave that in there, and then you can just go ahead and slide your firing pin back into your bolt. Again, don't worry about the orientation of that at this point. And that's going to slide in there. Now with this going back in, again, you don't want to cram anything or shove anything, force anything. You know, take your time, and if it doesn't feel right, go back and undo everything and start over if need be. But this is going to go in there like this, all right? And so, I hope you can see that. But the slant's going to be facing down with the flat part of the bolt, not the rounded part, but the flat part of the bolt on the bottom, all right? So you can, whoops. Go ahead and start that into the receiver. And again, you're going to need to push down on the hammer, okay, because it's going to give you a lot more resistance if you don't. So push down on the hammer and start to slide it in. Now this is something that took me a while to figure out what the heck was going on and kind of gave me a little bit of panic anxiety. When you are putting the bolt back in, it's not going to go in unless the mechanism here inside here that carries, I think it's the carriage, whatever the mechanism is called, this part here, it needs to be down, okay? So just make sure that that's down, and then you can go ahead and slide your bolt back in, and it should go in easily, you know. Make sure that when it's in there, let me see if I can get this on here. You see how it can wiggle around inside here? Side to side like this. You want to make sure that that's, you know, facing upwards there with the bevel and everything's oriented properly inside of there. Okay, so just make sure that that's that way. You don't need to slide all the way up there, just kind of get it in there loosely at this point. All right, and oops, sorry. All right. All right. All right, and so where are we at? All right, so we got the bolt in there. Got the pin inside the bolt, and it's oriented in there how it's supposed to be in there. All right, so just go ahead and tilt this upside down for now. All right, and what we're going to do is leave this part here, the carriage. I know there's a term for it, I can't remember whether or not that's it. But what's going to happen is there is a small slot in that mechanism right here, okay? You see that? And that is where this portion of your lever is going to slide through, all right? So go ahead and work that through there. Let's see what we got here. Again, it's just loosely going together at this point, okay? So I'll try to make sure that I'm getting this portion because this is kind of important as far as getting it back together. All right. So here is your gate that locks the bolt in place. All right, that's the part that slid down from the top. That is, I guess, dovetailed, maybe, dadoed out anyway. And so, but so isn't this piece here, okay? And so that should slide onto there first. All right, so it slid over top of it, and then this part here is going to get out of the way. So, and then that's going to slide down in there. All right, and then you can go ahead and get the pin that goes through here back in place, so that portion of it is, you know, secure. So when we're trying to get the, of course, this is going to give me an issue. It's really not difficult in this. Okay, there we go. And I'm just going to throw the screw back on there just to make sure that, because that pin actually is pretty loose in there, and it will try to slide out on you, and you might lose it if you're not careful and cautious of that. So I'm just going to throw the screw back on there so that that does not get lost. And this is by far the most difficult part of getting this this gun back together with what we just took apart, and that is getting the pin in that connects the lever to the bolt back together. Okay, and it's just because several different things have to line up, and hopefully this time it'll be a little bit easier, just because I know what I'm doing and what I'm looking for more so than last time, obviously. All right, so hopefully I can pass along that time saving to you guys. So move this over here so you guys can get a better view, and I can make sure that you can see exactly what's going on. Oh, jeez. Sorry for that. All right. So what I'm going to do is, again, this is going to be your more difficult part of everything here, okay? But at this point, the lever and the bolt should more or less be, working each other, but it's going to be loose and not connected. It's not going to react like it would when we're all done. So make sure that you are, at this point, paying attention to how the bolt is oriented. Good Lord. This is harder than it looks when you watch YouTube videos. Alright. So you're going to want to make sure that your bolt... I need more light here. That your bolt is oriented in the thing properly. And at this point, it is going to matter if your pin is oriented in there correctly also. Jesus, good Lord. Alright, I'm just going to move this over here, and I'll just have to explain it, and you'll see what I'm talking about while you're doing it. And if you don't, feel free to email me. I'll put my email in the comments or the description of the page. Alright, what I use is just the tool that I use to take the pins out. I'm just going to use... I'm going to use that to make sure that the firing pin is oriented in there properly. The slope on the back of that needs to line up with the slope of the bolt. Alright, and then go ahead and close the mechanism or the lever as far as possible. Alright, and when you do that, and this may be the trick to making this a less annoying process, push down and lock the link. Okay, you see how that was up and now that part is pushed down. At this point, you can go ahead and flip over the gun. Everything should be lined up properly inside of there. If you did everything that I just described. And at this part, you're just going to be more or less moving around the lever like this, trying to find out exactly where it lines up inside of here, inside this hole that you created with where you pop the first pin out. All right. And the best way to do that is just to have something that's bright and clear, or gives you some backlight on the other side of it, that allows you to figure out what exactly how you're lining them up. Now this part is actually very important to make sure that the pin that you're putting back in. So this should be the last pin that you have, and like I said, it's going to have a little divot in one side of it, or one end of it, that goes all the way around. Okay, a little relief. And so when you're putting this in, the divot or the relief that goes all the way around the pin, that's going to be the last part that goes in. Okay, so you're going to be pushing from that end, all right, and pushing it down through the bigger hole. And so you might need to kind of wiggle things around a little bit until you get it to fit. And once you can see a real nice clear circle through there, just go ahead and set it in the hole and see if you can push it down with your finger. Now, I can't, and so this part you really have to use some discernment. Figure out how comfortable you feel with tapping. I'm just going to use real gentle taps, and it's going to go a small portion, it's going to slide down and then it's going to stop for a second, and then I'm going to have to tap it a little bit harder to get it to go down the rest of the way. But at this part you can also, if it's not lined up properly, it'll also do this, but it'll, get real sticky real quick. So just be cautious, just tap gently. If it doesn't tap down flat after you give it a good whack like that, so I hope you can see that, make sure you can. It should tap down like there is a divot there. It goes up a little bit still, so I need to tap it down further until it is recessed all the way in, but it should tap down that far without a whole lot of pressure. Okay. And then I'm just going to use my set here to set it the rest of the way in there. Again, just real gentle tapping until it's firmly in there. All right, and that should be good. I'm just going to go ahead and make sure that the action feels smooth, which it does. All right, so that is how to disassemble and reassemble the Mossberg 464 receiver components, and make sure that if you have any positive feedback, feel free to leave it in the comments. And if you have any questions about anything, if I wasn't clear, or if I didn't, if you weren't able to see something while I was through here, send me an email, and I will try to take it apart, send pictures if necessary to help you out, because I don't want anybody to get it apart and not be able to get it back together. So I hope you enjoyed watching. I hope it was informative, and thanks for tuning in.